Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we know that the NAFTA negotiations, well, that is continuing, it's ongoing, and Trump is out there, and he's warning that he might scrap the entire North American Free Trade Agreement, which is NAFTA, with Mexico and Canada, saying that, if the sides can't compromise on this 23-year-old deal, then we're going to have to get rid of it. He finally came out and said, listen, personally, I don't think we can make a deal. I think we'll probably end up terminating NAFTA at some point. And he's saying that, this might not even work out. Now, when he was running for the presidency, he said NAFTA was a completely bad deal. Now, he is a businessman. He knows how deals are made. He knows if they're good or bad. And I think he needs to go back to his roots. And I think he needs to take a really deep look. And I know there's a lot of pressure from outside groups who want to keep NAFTA. There's a lot of pressure from the cabal. There's a lot of pressure from everywhere. But he needs to go back to his roots of what he's been saying during the campaign to become president. And he needs to say, something? I am the president right now. I looked at the deal, and it is awful. It did not help America. I mean, he gave statistics showing how we lost 800,000 jobs. I think at this point, we need to scrap it and come up with something completely different. And will he do this? Well, only time will tell. We don't know right now. We see the negotiations going on. But what we do know is if they don't come up with any type of deal and he doesn't scrap this, this won't help the economy whatsoever, because we see the economy, it is completely falling apart. And we're seeing every single sector, well, it's imploding. New home sales crashed in July. It came down 9.4% month on month. Now, they thought, and I'm talking about the financial pundits, the government, they thought that this was going to be a pretty darn good month. And a year over year, it was an 8.9% plunge. This is the worst since 2014. And where are we today? Well, we are nowhere. The housing market has been bouncing up and down around the 0% mark. We average it all out. It has gone absolutely nowhere. It is dead. Now think about it. We have higher mortgage rates. We have stagnant wages. People are losing their jobs. And the housing prices in these 20 cities are continually moving up and up and up. So how are people going to purchase houses? Well, it's not the American people. It's Chinese investors, hedge funds, investment companies. We also need to remember that household formation, it has collapsed in June. Now, the last time we saw this was back in 2007. We are now below that point, which tells us we are bordering on this collapse. Now, we are definitely in a recession. I know the corporate media, I know the government, the Fed, they're not out there telling us that we're in a recession, but we are. They're going to go back in time and say, listen, the recession started in 2016, 2017, or the beginning of 2018. They might even say, listen, we entered a depression. But for right now, they're continually pushing the market up, making everyone believe that everything is fine. Now, what's very interesting, institutional risk analyst Chris Whalen, well, he's looking at the situation, and for those people that have seen Game of Thrones, winter is coming. Well, he's saying winter is here for housing. And what he's saying is that we are in trouble. The big picture on housing reflected in the mainstream media is one of caution. Home valuations are one of the clearest indicators of inflation in the U.S. economy. In fact, since World War II, home prices in the U.S. have gone up 4 times the official inflation rate. Now, houses weren't always this expensive. Go back to 1940. The median home value in the U.S. was $2,938. In 1980, it was $47,000. By 2000, it was $119,000. And here we are today in 2018, and it's even above the $119,000. So what we are seeing right now is inflation. Actually, it's the devaluation of the dollar. It takes that many more dollars to buy the same home. Now, there are two indicators that are especially worrying in the world of credit. So if we look at the MBA data, if you subtract the effects of mortgage service rights from pre-tax income, most of the industry is operating at a significant loss. And when you look at non-performing loans, you can see, well, the service cost per loan is continually moving up. And if you go back in time, you can see it was much, much lower back in time. Now, we're seeing that manufacturing has completely imploded on itself. Now, I know Trump has been saying he wants to bring manufacturing back. He wants to bring jobs back. He's telling everyone he's created all these jobs. These are part-time, low-paying jobs. It's all being manipulated in government. That has not changed since Obama has been there. Everything is status quo. And what he wanted to do with manufacturing, he wanted to make deals with all these corporations, bring them back to the United States, and prepare the economy for this transition, for this economic collapse, because we know the economy cannot be sustained right now. And he wanted to prepare the economy for the new system. And the only way we can survive is to have some type of manufacturing. We need to produce something here in the United States. Now, there's an interesting article that came out of Newsmax, and the title reads, "The U.S. will plunge into recession within 12 to 18 months, which is very interesting. And they're looking at the economy right now. And we can see already with the corporate media, they're going to be building this narrative that the economy is coming down, and most likely they'll blame it on Trump, of course. What they are saying here is that stock valuations are the discounted values of future earnings. Now, future earnings depend on future revenue, which may diminish whenever the future includes a recession. So broad economic conditions are a big factor to watch in stock valuation. Broad economic conditions depend on the consumer's ability and willingness to spend money. And July retail sales report, well, they gave us a peek into that. And what we see right now is that consumer spending is far lower than it should be at this point in the cycle. And we can see right now they're looking at this, and some of them are starting to say, okay, we have problems showing up in the economy. It's not because of online sales. It's not because of bad weather. It's because the everyday person is not spending the funds. Now, they look at the real value added. Now, we looked at this before. And when this goes into the negative territory, and this is a very good indicator of predicting a recession. Now, what's very interesting about this, and if we look back in time, if we look back to 1990, the real value indicator, well, that went into negative territory maybe a couple of months before we moved into a recession in the 90s. The same thing happened in 2008. Actually, if we go back in time all the way to 1948, it predicted a recession almost every single time, almost has a perfect record. And here we are today in 2017. And if we look at the real value added, well, guess what? We are below zero. We're at negative 2% right now, which means we are in a recession. The recession is already here. And they're making the case, and this is why they're saying a recession is coming. Actually, what's going to happen is they're going to go back in time and they're going to look at all the indicators, look at everything and say, well, the recession really started in 2016. And of course, they're going to point to the real value added, and they're going to say, yes, this is when it occurred. We are in a recession right now. Yes, they're keeping the illusion alive. Yes, they're trying to make everyone believe that we're not. But what's going to happen is that all this data is going to start to pour out, and the corporate media, the Fed, the cabal, they're going to point the finger. And they're going to say, well, it's because of what Trump has been doing. Now, remember, in the beginning of this year, they couldn't blame it on him. It was too early. Now that we're further into this year, going into August, we're in August, going into September, now they can start building the narrative. And this is what they've started to do. And we can see they're going to turn up the heat very, very soon. Now, what is happening here in this economy, this old economy, well, it's withering away. It's dying. And it's giving birth to a new economy. And this new economy is being run by the BRICS. And China, well, it's steering this new economy. Now, I am not saying that this new economy is going to be incredible. It's without the central bankers. No, the central bankers are in control of this new China economy. Remember, the central bankers, they don't have an allegiance to any country, to any people. They don't care about that. You know where they go? They go where they can start their system over again. The U.S. is dead right now. The central bankers know this. They know the dollar is dead. There's nothing they can do. So what do? They abandon this entire system. And they blame it someplace else. Usually they like to have an event like a war or something to distract everyone so they can start the whole system over again. And they go to another country where they see manufacturing. Very interesting that China has all this manufacturing. They go to a country where they have a lot of gold. China has a lot of gold. And they set up shop. And they control everything from there. This is what's happening right now. Now, China, yes, they are creating this Belt and Road system. It's going to go all throughout Asia, throughout Europe. And it might even come into Canada and eventually the United States. Because if the United States is not involved in this new economic system, guess what? We're not going to be able to survive. But again, it's still a central banking system. We haven't escaped that yet. And hopefully with cryptocurrency, we will have the opportunity to do this because the people around the world, and they've been protesting quite a bit against the central banks. Hopefully everyone comes out and says, listen, we don't need a central bank. There's no reason for it. We can create currency on our own. We can make deals. We can take out loans. We can do everything without the central bank, actually without the banking system. But again, the central banks, they don't want this to happen. They're going to do whatever they possibly can to keep their system alive. And of course, they'll call their system something completely different. It won't be the dollar anymore. And when it first starts out, it will be backed by gold. This is what they're setting up right now. It's not like they set this up yesterday. If you go back to my beginning reports, this has been an ongoing plan since the beginning. And you can see when China was introduced, the yuan introduced into the SDR, you can see they set up all the payment system, the gold exchange system. They're dealing without the dollar. I mean, think about how much has happened since we originally started talking about this. And they're almost ready to leave the dollar. They really don't need it. There's no reason to be using it anymore. And they know this. And they're just basically dotting the I's, crossing the T's, getting prepared and ready to switch everything to the new system. But there are certain individuals within the U.S. government who make a lot of money, government officials, who don't want this system to go because they receive free money. They become very, very wealthy. They can control the world with the dollar. It's a war currency. They can control everywhere with sanctions. If this disappears, their influence, their control disappears. And this is why they've been trying to keep the system the way it is. They don't want it to end. There are certain others who are saying, listen, we got to get rid of this. This is no good for the country. I don't think China's system is going to be any better for the world. I think it's going to be controlled by the central banks. I think the people around the world are going to need to take control of a new system, and this new system will need to work for the people. It will need to be controlled by the people, and we need it so no other entity can control the currency of the world. Because we know the saying from the central bank, from the Rothschilds, they don't care who makes the laws as long as they can control the currency. That is the control. You can put countries into debt. You can buy their assets for pennies on the dollar. You can control the world if you can control the creation of currency. This is what we need to stop. So the system is coming down. A new system is going to be born. The dollar is going to be devalued quite a bit. And this is why you need to be ready with gold and silver to ensure your wealth. This is why you need cryptocurrency, because I'm sure the new system is going to be some type of cryptocurrency with exchanges. Don't know who's going to control that as of yet. Hopefully the people will take control of it. And you can see right now, as we go through this entire transition, you're going to need food, water, supplies, because the value of the dollar is going to decrease. We're going to see inflation, and it's going to be very difficult to get these supplies. So you might as well buy them now. I mean, this is what people have done in other countries. They purchased a lot of these supplies ahead of time because they knew that their entire system was breaking down. And you don't have to worry about fighting the crowds to get the merchandise. So get ready, get prepared. The system is coming down.